We started out this great season 40 days ago with the symbol of death, which means that this drama that we were witnessing or beginning to witness is going to somehow move in and through death. So it was a little reminder that this is a play that death will be very seriously involved in, okay? And then today, the palm was only used for a conquering hero who came back from war. So the palms symbolize that this is the glorification of man himself, that he has the power to deal with anything and everything, and he's the one who has the strength. So the palm symbolizes that. So in the drama, we get a sense there's going to be a death, and now today, giving the palm and waving the palm is saying, long live the man. He could conquer anything. He has only need his own resources and power to rely on himself, okay? And so we have to look at this in a whole new way coming up. Did Jesus rely on himself to save him from the hand of death? It's the same question you got to ask yourself when you're in a dying process. Are you going to glorify yourself and rely on yourself to stand in your own dying? Because what Jesus reveals now is a way to walk the path of suffering and dying. And that is walk it with a radical trust in God, not in yourself. Let me say it again. When you have to embrace the suffering, do not trust yourself. It's not your strength, not your ability to deal with suffering. Only in God's power can you stand in it and call forth life, which then is celebrated on Easter. And if you choose to rely on yourself, which most people do, and I'm very honest with you, most people do. They're going to pull it off. We're going to expect a miracle. God's going to do something. And there's a sickness called sickness unto death, and your body knows it. There's a sickness called sickness unto health. But you embrace that sickness unto death. You have no power over it. But we create the illusion we do, and in that process we create our own hell before we die. Jesus stood in it, trusting always in his Father's power, even though he didn't have the warm fuzzies of God in that experience. Why he was able to cry out, Father, you have abandoned me. You've abandoned me. And yet he said, I still trust in your power. And because what he did, he was able to call forth life from death. And that gift is yours. And so today, the palms, just as the ashes were a symbol of death, the palms are a symbol of your self-glorification. Because I said they were only used by a conquering hero who destroyed a people, who conquered a nation, who did whatever they had to do to win the victory. That the man, so they were basically saying, we're waving these palms because he's going to do what? He's going to rely on his own strength. So when you read the reading again of the gospel of the passion and death, all of a sudden you begin to see even Jesus was tempted in that experience. Even Jesus was tempted in that experience to rely on himself. Even Jesus was tempted to make God do what he wanted him to do. Just as you will be tempted in your dying. You will be tempted the same. And to be honest with you, most of you succumb to that temptation. Most of you succumb to that temptation. So go back to the passion. Because guess what? The American society says to you, you can be anything. Go back to the passion and see if he had that same belief that most of us have. We're going to do everything and anything to fight this disease, when all along the sickness you're fighting is until death. But you can't hear your body speak to you because you're too busy fighting a losing battle. Can you imagine if you realized that my sickness was going to end in death? Would you approach it any differently? Would you give away days fighting? Would you do that? Would you constantly chase after every kind of treatment to say, I'm going to beat this, I'm going to be the exception? And never do the work of loving because you're too busy wrapped in yourself. Read the Passion. Read it again.